All right, today we're digging into one of the most incredible wealth-building stories ever told, the journey of Warren Buffett. We're going to break down exactly how he did it, using what he calls the Buffett method.
So you got to ask, right? How does a kid from the middle of Nebraska become one of the wealthiest people on the entire planet? And he did it without inventing some world-changing product or starting a flashy tech company. The answer, it turns out, lies in a few powerful lessons he learned when he was really young. Let's start right at the beginning.
You see, this whole story doesn't start in a high-rise office on Wall Street. Nope. It begins in Omaha, Nebraska, with a young boy who's just completely fascinated by numbers and how business worked.
I mean, Buffett was born smack in the middle of the Great Depression, and from day one, he was just obsessed with business. And get this, by the time he was only 11 years old, while all the other kids were, trading baseball cards, he was making his very first investment in the stock market. He went out and bought 3 shares of a company called Cities Service for just $38 a share. Now, it was a pretty small start, but this single move was about to teach him a lesson that would eventually be worth billions.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Almost as soon as he bought it, the stock dropped. Can you imagine? A nervous young Warren held on for dear life until it climbed back to $40. And then he sold, making just a tiny little profit. But then he had to sit and watch in total disbelief as that exact same stock skyrocketed all the way up to $200 a share. Ouch!
That single painful experience burned a core principle into his mind that he would never, ever forget. Investing isn't about trying to get rich quick. It's about patience. It's about thinking for the long term.
And that early lesson in patience, well, it became the fuel for the real engine behind all of his wealth, the absolutely incredible power of compounding.
Buffett himself has said this is one of the biggest keys to his success. To put it simply, it's just your money making money, and then that new money turning around and making even more money. It's kind of like a snowball rolling downhill. It just gets bigger and bigger all on its own.
And this chart just shows the magic of it perfectly. Look, by age 30, he was already a millionaire, which is pretty impressive, right? But look at how his wealth back then barely even makes a dent compared to what happened later in his life. The growth wasn't just a straight line. It was an explosive, exponential curve. In fact, and this is the most stunning part of the whole story, over 90% of Warren Buffett's entire fortune was earned after he turned 50. Let that sink in. That is the unbelievable power of time and consistent growth working together.
So if compounding is the engine, what was the roadmap he was following? Well, you might be surprised to find out that his strategy isn't built on some complex hidden secrets. It's actually grounded in just a few simple, timeless rules.
His whole approach is refreshingly simple. First, only invest in businesses you can actually understand. He calls this his circle of competence. Next, you got to stay disciplined. Don't panic when the market drops, and don't get greedy when it soars. And finally, and this is a big one, never ever stop learning. And that last point leads directly to his most famous piece of advice. He argues that the more you learn, the more you earn. Because when you think about it, your own knowledge is the one asset that nobody can ever take away from you. So, okay, how does the story of a billionaire from Nebraska actually apply to you? Well, that's what this is really all about. These principles, they're universal. You have to remember, Buffett started out as a total beginner, just like everyone else. His journey is really just proof that you don't need a fortune to start building one. You just need to start with the right mindset, knowledge, patience, and consistency. Buffett's entire journey began with one single small investment. So the real question here is, what is the first small step that you will take today? Maybe it's just reading a book or saving an extra dollar, or just learning about something simple like an index fund. What's it going to be?
Hey, if you found these lessons valuable, please hit that subscribe button, give it a like, and maybe share this explainer with someone you know who's just getting started on their own financial journey. Thanks so much for watching.